Good evening, everybody. KT here with Wise Images Photography, and today we are going to go ahead and talk about film grain. We're going to go ahead and talk about what is it, why would we use it, and also we're going to go ahead and go over how to use it in the Dehancer program. Now, if you guys have been watching a lot of my videos and you guys are enjoying the Dehancer program, you can go ahead and get a 10% discount if you use my code dehancer.com/KT. I'll leave that information below in the description. So needless to say, we're going to go ahead and get right into this. So let's get going. So what is film grain? Film grain is the texture that you guys get when you look at those old movies and those old photographs. Basically, it is caused by silver particles that is in the emulsion layer of the film stock. So I want you guys to think about like a piece of toast, okay? Or a piece of bread. So you have your bread and then you have your butter on it, and then you go ahead and toast it, and the butter kind of changes and melts into the toast, right, and into the bread. And that's basically how it kind of works with the film emulsion that is on top of that layer of film. And when it gets chemically changed, it all kind of goes into the film itself. So that's basically how we get the film grain when we're working with film. And so what Dehancer has done is actually a very scientific process. All right, it's not just noise slapped onto the film, because what happens is film grain actually reacts to your highlights, to your shadows, and to your colors. So basically the grain is going to react differently when it's in a highlighted area versus a shadowed area versus different colors. So it is a whole scientific process behind getting film grain. It's not just noise. So why would I want to go ahead and use film grain to begin with? Well, the reason why is because you're looking for a certain kind of look, a certain kind of feel for your photograph. You're wanting it to look cinematic. When you are using film, you pick what you want with your film grain. With digital noise, it's more of an interference. It's not something that you picked. It's not really something that you wanted. It will, oftentimes, it affects the sharpness of your photo. It also is, it will come up with various random kind of colors in your image. So it's not a desired effect, whereas with film grain, it is something that you actually pick. And with anything, you always want to make sure that you kind of, art is subjective, right? So you can season it to taste. You can make it as grainy as you want or not as grainy as you want. So next up, we're going to go ahead and jump into the Dehancer program, and we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about film grain and how to use it. All right, so we are inside the program. Right now I've picked this cute little picture of this duck. I went through and I was really trying to figure out which photograph I wanted to use. This one has a lot of noise on it. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my Dehancer plugin here, and you can see that it's almost like it went from a very speckled look to all of a sudden I feel like everything kind of flowed. Now the cool thing is you can come over here on the far right, and over here we have our film grain is marked. You can go ahead and you can customize it, and you can adjust all the settings according to what you want. And then you can also pick pre-desired ones like 8mm ISO 50. Let's give it a second to catch up. There it goes. It changed just a little bit. Now let's say, for example, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go at an extreme here. We're going to go 65mm with 500. We're going to see how that changes everything. There we go. Everything changed right there, and it just gives us a different look. So if you understand more of this stuff, as you guys know, I'm learning about the film stuff, and you can go through and pick what you desire your image to look like. Now we're going to go ahead and look at the custom settings. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and look at the different sliders that we have. So right now we're at a 1 with our size in the grain. I'm going to go ahead and jump it up to 42.13. You can tell that it has changed the size of the film grain, so that is an option that you have. You can also decide on how much. You can have a little or you can go over to the far right and you can have a lot more grain in your image. Now it does take a couple of seconds for everything to kind of pop in there for a second. So there you go, boom, you have a lot more there. Now I think that's too much. You know, you can always have too much of a good thing. So I'm actually going to go ahead and bounce that amount back a little bit because that is way too much. So let's take it back and we'll wait for your... All right, so I've backed it down to about 2.5. I don't want it to look absolutely where you can't see the image. I love old images, but I have found that if they're too hard to see, then I'm kind of like, I'm a little bit disappointed because I do want to definitely be able to see what's going on. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and I want you guys to see that you guys can also adjust your highlights. You can adjust your midtones and you can adjust your shadows. You will see slight variations happening down here in your histogram, and then you can look here. But I feel like that's a very, very subtle amount that you will see when it comes to your highlights. So let's up the highlights there a little bit. There's not too many highlights here in this photograph. It's a little bit higher right here, but there's not much going on there. Let's see our midtones, kind of maybe around the duck's face and nose. You might notice a little bit of a difference. Sometimes some of these tools are a little subtle. There we go. Now we're starting to get the midtones were really affected a lot. Now let's go ahead and look at our shadows. And let's see how it reacts with the shadows. I would say looking more over here in the left hand side, I did see a little bit of an adjustment there. So basically, you have a lot of creative control with being able to do the shadows and the midtones and the highlights. And I'm gonna go up about a quarter. I think it's a little bit too much when I pulled everything more to the far right, right? Okay, the other thing is it also can be affected by the color. So I'm gonna let everything tone down here for a second, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go far right for the color, and we're gonna see how it gets affected with the color as well. All right, so with the color one, I think it was, I think that was a very subtle change there. I didn't see much change when I went from far left to far right on that one. But like I said, some of these tools are I've noticed that they are very subtle, and it's sometimes hard to see. Now, something that I really didn't dive into too deep was the film type. There's positive film and there is negative film, so that would make an adjustment to your settings as well if you decided to pick a different setting there. So with the positive, it looks like you have a little bit more of a finer grain. If I were to move to the negative, it seems like the grain gets a little bit more grittier, so to speak. So let's give it a second to do that. There you go. It gets a little bit more grittier right there. So that is the adjustments there with the positive and the negative film type. And the mode, I'm not even gonna mess with that today, but I want you guys to see that there is tons of different options out there. I'm gonna go ahead and back out of this photograph a little bit. I want you guys to see kind of the full picture there with our film grain added on. And then when I turn it off, you can see that we have digital noise versus having the grain. So on with the grain, off with the grain, and you can see that there's a difference between the noise, and you can also see a difference between the film grain. If you guys learned something today, definitely go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Tell me down below how I can help you guys out with your photographic journey. I hope that you guys enjoyed the Dehancer program. I hope learning a little bit about film grain has made you understand the difference between film grain and noise. It's all about being artistic and finding that artistic flair that you want for your images. So next time, if you guys want to add a little bit of a cinematic feel to your images, definitely go ahead and add some film grain to it. So I want you guys to remember that you guys are awesome. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you later, alligator.